Today, let's look at 5 signs of impulsive behavior. We hear it in different terms sometimes: impulse control, immediate gratification. I want what I want when I want it. For this video, I'm going to call it impulsive behavior, but they're all interconnected. Basically, it's when you do something, when you act, and you have no thought of or care about the consequences. All you're thinking of is what you want at this moment, this exact moment. As adults, we need to think ahead a little bit. Sure, there's things we can occasionally do at the drop of a hat. Call a friend and, hey, are you free for dinner right now? That type of thing is A-okay. But for larger decisions, like if you want to move somewhere, quit your job tomorrow, break up with a boyfriend or girlfriend, these type of decisions need a little more thought for sure. We need to think about the implications, the long-term implications. So what you're looking for if you think you have a problem with this area, is there a pattern over time? It's all about the pattern. There's a consistency to it. And the other part to this is if you're aware of it and you've tried to stop it, you've tried to curtail it in the past, and you're not successful. You can't gain control over it. It feels out of control. You keep acting out to some degree, making decisions that somehow harm you in the long run, things that are not good for you. If you can't gain control over it, that's a big red flag. So there's dozens and dozens of signs of impulsivity, maybe even hundreds, but I've narrowed it down to 5 that I think are worth looking at today. The number 1 sign, I believe, is starting over. It's hard to be settled with making a decision, staying in one spot, staying with a plan, looking ahead a bit, maybe a few years. So let's say it's with a job or a move. So you're all hyped up. You start the new job. I'm going to stay for 2 years no matter what. After 2 months, you've quit. I've wanted to move from Miami to Philadelphia for a long time now. I'm going to do it next week. I'm going to live the rest of my life there. You move up there and you're back in a couple months. But then you're back for a couple months and now you want to move from Miami to Dallas. And then a few months later, there you are off to Texas without really understanding why you didn't stay in Philadelphia. What made you come back? You join groups, you quit groups. You make new friendships and soon you discard them. It's usually very black and white thinking in regards to, I just want to wipe the slate clean. I want to start again. Difficult seeing that gray area, so everything is very extreme. 2 sign is making mountains out of molehills. So do you frequently find yourself embroiled in some sort of drama? If you're in school, are you called a lot to the principal's office? Have you been arrested a few times? Is there all sort of problems or drama with friendships or a boyfriend or girlfriend? You see it in different aspects of your life. Things can escalate really quickly and not in a good way. Basically, it's taking a minor situation, something where there's not too much going on, and somehow finding a way, needing to make it somehow into a bigger deal. Therapeutically, that could be because you're wanting to avoid something in your life. There's something troubling, maybe an emotional issue. And so if you're focused on the drama over here, then you don't really have to deal with the emotional issue. If you're turning minor issues into major issues and you're not even aware of how that happens, that's an indication you're having trouble with impulsive behavior. Number 3, if there's a lot of overindulgence. So if you go to Vegas or something, you can't just put $100 away to gamble. This is all I'm going to spend this weekend. Or better yet, maybe you do, but you're not able to honor that. So you go for a quick little weekend, you're thinking, yeah, I may spend $100 or so. You come home and you realize you spent $3,000. You didn't want to, you don't have the money for that. You took a big risk. Let's say you lost it all, now you're back home without the $3,000. Basically, in many areas of your life, there's a lot of binging going on. Binging with shopping, binging with overeating. You're going to the store to buy a new pair of shoes, and once you're there, you just absolutely feel compelled to spend more money and buy more things. You come home with the shoes, but you also come home with a receipt for $600 of other merchandise you purchased. And you really didn't want it, and you felt a little out of control about it. You really couldn't stop yourself when you were doing it. That's something to be aware of for sure. Number 4 can tie into intimate relationships, romantic relationships, but I want to focus in on a lot of sex, a lot of one-night stands. You feel out of control with that. Maybe you're on apps a lot looking for who you can conquer next. So you're risking lots of things here. Maybe you're cheating on somebody behind their back. Or if you're not cheating, what's your goal? Is it purely about the sex? Are you taking precautions so you don't get a sexually transmitted disease? Do you risk pregnancy? Do you risk perhaps emotionally hurting yourself or emotionally hurting another person? So lots of risks with this. This can tie into relationships, of course, too, but I sort of zoomed in just on the sexual aspect of it. And for number 5, it's disregarding danger. You think you're not afraid to die. You think that's what it's all about with the chances and the risks you take. But could it tie more into how you feel about yourself as a person, your self-worth? You're done with things, so who really cares if I die from this or that? So you take lots of risks that are dangerous. You're driving down a crowded highway, you know you need to keep your eyes on the road, but you want to spend a lot of time texting or looking up YouTube videos, doing things online as you're driving. You've already had an accident in the past in regards to this, and here you are doing it again. And you say to yourself, it's no big deal, I take risks all the time. Well, if it somehow risks your life or risks others' lives, and you know it can be harmful and yet you keep doing it, you keep over-medicating yourself, for example, with prescriptions you have at home. Oh, I'll be fine. It says take 1 pill, I'm going to take 5, no big deal. So notice various things where you're taking risks that are actually a way to harm ourselves on some level. Are you trying to harm yourself? Self-harm is another form of impulsivity. So a lot to look at if you're taking a lot of dangerous, unnecessary risks in your life. What's that about? As a therapist, I tend to focus more on the emotional connection, why somebody may be behaving this way in regards to childhood trauma, emotional issues, a psychological diagnosis. But there's also other physical areas such as ADHD, personality disorders such as borderline personality disorder. That's a big one. The way our brain functions. Have you had a brain injury before? The way all the wiring is connected in our brain. For older people, it may be more related to, say, having a stroke, for example. And of course, if somebody doesn't realize that they're bipolar, if that diagnosis hasn't been made yet, then it may very well show in the mania, of course. And if there's an addiction issue going on, any sort of substance abuse, that of course can lead to impulsive behavior. And then the question is, if we look at it therapeutically, is why are you numbing out? What are you trying to push away or repress? So a quick short video on impulsive behavior, even though it's a very large, deep subject. But I hope the 5 I just covered are helpful to some of you. Again, I mentioned 5, but there could be perhaps hundreds. The main thing to pay attention to, if it's a consistent pattern and you feel somewhat out of control about it, then you know those are red flags for it being a deeper issue that will need to be addressed. So please leave me some comments below. I'd love to hear your thoughts about this video. Please subscribe to my mental health YouTube channel if you like these kind of videos. And until next week, this is Brad Shore signing off from Ask a Shrink.